All right, everyone. It's 7:25 already. So I want to believe that whoever is going to join the class now should have joined by now. And I'm hoping that others will be able to join as we go on. So Christine and Senior Man, in our last class, we talked about digestive system in human beings and in monogastric animals. And today we'll be talking about our next topic in line. We'll be talking about the transport system. We're talking about the transport system in human beings and the transport system in plants. When we talk about transport system, we're talking about transportation. And what is transportation? The movement of people and goods from one place to another. But in terms of biology, transportation is the movement of materials from one location to the other. That is the meaning of transportation in biology, the movement of materials and substances from one location to the other. Then transport system itself, what does it mean? It is the system through which various substances or materials are transported through different media from one part of the body to the other parts of the body. And this movement of materials across cells takes place through a process called some processes called diffusion and osmosis. So which one who has heard about diffusion and osmosis before? If you've heard about diffusion and osmosis, drop me a thumbs up. You should have heard about diffusion and osmosis from your chemistry and from even biology from your SS1 and SS2. Okay, thank you for dropping the emoji. Thank you for dropping the emoji. So we have transport system in large organisms. Large organisms like human beings and animals. Human beings are higher animals. Now, in human beings and animals, we eat food, we ingest water, our body produces waste, excretory product that needs to be transported also from one place to another. Our body undergoes respiration, our exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, which also has to move from one place to another. And we also have hormones in our body which also needs to be moved from one place to another. So substances such as food, hormones, excretory products, gases, hormones, etc., they are transported in human beings and animals through the circulatory system. Now, the main means through which transport of substances occur is through the blood and lymph. They are the main means through which the body transports substances. And when we're talking about the transport of substances in human beings, we cannot talk about it without mentioning the circulatory system. And the circulatory system is made up of the blood. It's made up of the blood, red blood cells, white blood cells, etc. We'll talk about it more. It's made up. Now, when we are talking about the blood is the bodily fluid that is responsible for conveying nutrients and gases like oxygen and CO2 around the body. Now, blood has characteristics. Our blood has characteristics. We'll get to the types of blood. The characteristics of blood, it has a pH that range from 7.35 to 7.45. How many of you have heard about the pH scale before? The pH scale, when you talk about acidity, alkalinity, and either it's neutral, either a substance is acidic, either it's basic or alkaline, or it is neutral. And blood constitutes about 7.5% of the body weight, and human beings have about 5 to 6 liters of blood. And blood is responsible for transporting oxygen and nutrients. Blood contains red blood cells, which contains hemoglobin, which is an iron-containing pigment that combines with oxygen under normal conditions and is responsible for transporting oxygen molecules. Under abnormal conditions, the hemoglobin can combine with carbon dioxide, CO2, to give carboxyhemoglobin, and that's going to cause problem. Now, what are the functions of the blood in human beings, in animals? It is responsible for transporting of oxygen. It is responsible for transporting of carbon dioxide. I mentioned that our blood is involved in transporting respiratory gases. And the respiratory gases in human beings and animals are two: CO2, which is carbon dioxide, and two, oxygen. Transportation of absorbed food substances, nutrients, etc. The blood is also responsible for that. Our blood is responsible for transportation of metabolic waste products for elimination. And it is also responsible for the circulation of hormones to the target organ. For example, when your body releases an hormone, it has a target organ where it goes to exact its effect. The blood is also responsible, functions as distribution of body heat. It helps to regulate the body temperature. And the white blood cells present in the blood, they help to fight foreign substances, foreign organisms that might have gained access into the body. Now, what is blood composed of? Composition of blood. Blood is made up of two components: the plasma and the blood cells, also called the formed element. Now, the blood cells are the formed element, and that's because they have a shape. Like the blood cells are of three types. We have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and we have the platelets. Those are the three types of blood cells that we have. I said blood cells are also called formed elements. Then we have the plasma, which is the liquid part of the blood. Talking about the plasma is a clear yellowish fluid that consists majorly of water. It also contains protein like fibrinogen and globulin. Now, when you have a cut, when you have an injury and blood comes out, after the blood finish coming out, the blood is red. After it finish coming out and you clean it off, there is something that comes out that looks like is a fluid that looks some like uh bright bright yellow. It looks yellowish in color. That it has a substance called fibrinogen, and this fibrinogen is used in blood loss. No, that you not blood when you have injury, there is an issue. Can you all hear me? If you can hear me, drop a thumbs up. If you are following, drop a thumbs up. Okay, thank you, Christine. Okay, you're the only one in class right about now. All right, thank you, Christine, for following. I mentioned that the plasma also contains it contains proteins like globulin, fibrinogen. Now, the globulin that it contains helps target infections and deals with infection. The hormones that are conveyed by the plasma controls various metabolic activities of the body. Now we have the red blood cells. What do we know about the red blood cells? The red blood cells, we said the formed elements have a shape. That's why they are called formed element or blood cells. Now, the red blood cells has a biconcave shape. It is biconcave, and it has a disc-shaped structure. And they are very small in size, which allows them to be able to pass through blood vessels or be able to move around freely. Red blood cells have a lifespan of 120 days. That is, after 120 days, they die off. And they make up about 40% of total blood volume. And each of the red blood cells contain hemoglobin. I mentioned hemoglobin earlier. I said hemoglobin is an iron-containing pigment that combines with oxygen under normal condition. It combines with oxygen. But under abnormal condition, it can combine with carbon dioxide, CO2, and form carboxyhemoglobin, which is going to give respiratory disorder. Now, the red blood cells has a place where they are produced, and it has a place where they die. I mentioned that the red blood cells have a lifespan of 120 days. Now, when we are talking about the production of red blood cells, how are red blood cells produced? Red blood cells are produced in three places: in the liver, in the spleen, and in an embryo, a growing fetus. It is produced in the lymph node. They are also produced in the bone marrow. while in adults it's also produced in the bone marrow. And the death of red blood cells, when red blood cells grow old and reach 120 days, what happens to them? They don't just disappear out of the body. There is a place where their death occurs. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I said the lifespan of red blood cells is 120 days. After that 120 days, the spleen will remove the worn out red blood cells. We have an organ in our body that is called the spleen. The spleen is responsible for destruction of worn out red blood cells. So the spleen breaks them down, and when it breaks them down, the hemoglobin that is contained in the red blood cells is returned for manufacturing of new red blood cells. What are the functions of red blood cells? They are involved in blood clotting, they aid circulation. You're welcome back, senior man. They transport oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body. Now, the third type of formed element that we have white blood cells. What are these white blood cells? White blood cells, they are colorless cells, and they are found that are produced in the bone marrow. They have a nucleus, which is often large, and they are lobed also. And the white blood cells are capable of squeezing out through the walls of capillaries into almost all parts of the body through a sort of movement called diapedesis. Now, the numbers of the white blood cells are quite a lot. They are large in number. For example, in an adult, in a full-grown adult, the number of white blood cells, WBC, is around 7,000 to 10,000 per cubic millimeter of blood. Unless when the body is fighting an infection, the level of white blood cells can be high. That is why in hospital, when they say, oh, they want to conduct a full blood count, they want to check your level of white blood cells, red blood cells. If the level of your white blood cell is quite high, it means your body is fighting an infection, and they have to figure out what sort of infection your body is fighting and how to combat it. I've been in that situation before, whereby I was sick, and on getting to the hospital, they conducted a test, malaria parasite test. It came out negative, but I was still treated for malaria. But after I finished using the malaria medications, I was still feeling sick, so I had to go back again to the hospital, and they decided to do a full blood count. That was when it was seen that the level of my white blood cells was quite higher than normal, and eventually they were able to pinpoint exactly where the source of infection was and why my white blood cell count was high. And I got the proper medications, I got the proper treatment, and I got better eventually. Now, there are different types of white blood cells, and they have their own functions. We have the neutrophils, the eosinophils, the basophils, the lymphocytes, and monocytes. Oh, did I, let me mention that red blood cells, and another name for red blood cells is erythrocytes. Another name for red blood cells is erythrocytes. And another name for white blood cells is leukocytes. That's another name for white blood cell. So if you don't call it red blood cell, you can call it erythrocyte. If you don't call it white blood cells, you can call it leukocytes. You're welcome, Matilda. Thank you for joining. Now, the neutrophils. The neutrophils make up 50 to 70% of white blood cells, and they are lobed. They have a lobed nucleus. The eosinophils make up 2 to 5% of the white blood cells. They are also lobed, and they are granular in nature. We have the basophils, which consist less than 1% of the white blood cells, and they are also lobed. The lymphocyte, they constitute 20 to 33%, and monocyte make up 2 to 6%. Now, I said there are 5 types of white blood cells: neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, lymphocytes, and monocytes. Now, there are 2 groups of classes that we classify white blood cells. We have granulocytes and the agranulocytes. The granulocytes are the ones that contain granules. They contain tiny, tiny substances in their cells. Those are the granulocytes. And the granulocytes are the neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Those three make up the granulocytes, the white blood cell. Why the A granulocyte? The A there stands for absence of granules. Absence of granules. That is, it doesn't have tiny, tiny substances scattered around its cells. And the two classes of WBCs that belong to the A granulocyte are the lymphocytes and the monocytes. Now, what are the functions of white blood cells? The neutrophils and monocytes, for example, they engulf pathogen and destroy them. It means when the pathogen enters the body and neutrophil sees them, it moves there, engulfs it, and destroys it. Then we have the eosinophils, which helps to respond to allergic situation, uh, um, allergic reaction. When we talk about allergic reaction, there are people that have allergies, for example. When they find themselves in a dusty place, you see them sneezing, itching their nose, their eyes, their ears. That is an example of an allergic reaction. And what happens? Why are they getting that allergic reaction? Their eosinophil is signaling to their body that we are around something that is not palatable with us. Now, someone that is around a dusty place now, and the person starts sneezing, starts itching their nose, their ears, their eyes, what's the person's response going to be? The person's response is going to be, oh, I need to change my location. They just get up and do a change of location, and they feel better. And that's because they have, their eosinophils, white blood cells, is functional. They are functional. We have the lymphocytes, which are responsible for immunity, especially the B lymphocyte. They are responsible for immunity. They help with immunity and defense of the body against foreign microorganisms. We have basophils, which are responsible for releasing chemicals such as histamine. That histamine is responsible for inflammation. Now, when you are getting reactions, your body releases histamine. That is why when you present at the hospital, they give you a medication called antihistamine, just like antibiotics that is given to fight bacterial infection. Anti-malaria is given to fight malaria infection. Antifungal is given to fight fungal infection. We also have antihistamine that is given to stop histamine cells from continuing to release their chemicals into the blood. You see some people, for example, when they take their bath, they start itching all over. That's as a result of histamine. Their body is releasing histamine because they poured water on their body. So those kind of people, they advise them to take antihistamine before taking their bath. We also have platelets. Platelets are cells that are without nucleus and they are irregular in shape. And what is their function? They are majorly involved in blood clotting. I mentioned earlier that if your blood is not clotting, there is an issue. What's responsible for this clotting? The platelet. Now, when you have a cut, if I have a cut on my hand now and blood comes out, when the blood comes out, after a while, what happens to that place? Those blood will begin to clump together. They stick together. Now, when they stick together, if in the process you take a cotton wool or you take your hand or your handkerchief and you clean it off, blood will start coming out again. Why? Because a platelet plug has formed there to curb so that blood clotting has occurred to be able to minimize blood loss. So you removing that platelet plug, the place starts bleeding all over again. So the platelet is responsible for blood clotting or blood coagulation. And why does that happen? It helps to prevent blood loss. Imagine that if we have a cut on our skin, the blood does not stop rushing out. It just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing. What's going to happen? You just notice that people are dropping dead anyhow after they get a cut. Abi now, because the blood is not clotting. But if the blood is clotting, it's going to save you from experiencing blood loss that is life-threatening. Platelets also release thromboplastin, which initiates blood clotting to minimize excessive blood loss and invasion of germs. Now, in the process of me getting a cut on my skin, you know that place is open. My skin has been compromised. So there are some organisms that I prefer to call that I prefer to call opportunists. They see that, there is space here, yeah, let's enter the place, let's invade the place. Those are opportunist organisms, and you can eventually end up with opportunist infection. It's just like when your body immunity is low. If somebody cough near you, you too you catch the cough. If somebody sneeze near you, you too you start sneezing. Why? Because your immunity is low. So some opportunist infection will start coming in if you don't get the proper treatment. So without platelets, our bodies can become vulnerable and be open to invasion of of opportunist microorganisms, opportunist germs. Then we have the lymph. The lymph is a colorless fluid that circulates throughout the body, and it consists mainly of white blood cells. Now, this lymph circulates throughout the body through a system called the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system forms part of the circulatory system. The lymphatic system consists of lymph, which is the fluid, just like blood that is flowing around. It has lymph vessels, it has lymph nodes, it has lymphatic organs, like our tonsils is an example of a lymphatic organ. Our spleen is an example of a lymphatic organ. And what's the function of the lymphatic system? They are responsible for picking up bacteria and other unwanted materials, and they filter substance out through the blood. The lymph, where do we find them? The lymph node. We can find them in the neck, in the armpits, your axilla. You can find them in the abdomen. That's what the layman calls their stomach. You can find them in the pelvis, your pelvis, and you can find them in your throat. The one in our throat now is the tonsils, for example. For example, I've met someone that the doctor said, oh, they have tonsillitis, and the person kept having recurring tonsillitis. You're welcome, Gospel.
Okay.
Welcome, Gospel. Please mute your mic. Thank you, Gospel. Now, so the person kept on having recurrent tonsillitis. So the doctor said, look, madam, if you keep having tonsillitis, we are going to have to do a tonsillectomy. And what is tonsillectomy? You are welcome, Obawumi. Obawumi, you're welcome. So the doctor said, since you keep having tonsillitis, we are going to have to perform a tonsillectomy. And what is a tonsillectomy? A tonsillectomy is the surgical removal of the tonsils. And the woman said, okay, and she left. So she was interacting with me, come and hear, oh, this and this and this. And she was like, if they remove it, the tonsils is in the mouth. She was now telling me that if they remove her tonsils, that her tonsils has been functioning as a first line of defense for our mouth. Do you know that as you are breathing in and out, you are breathing in and out microorganisms that you cannot see? Let me give you an example. If you take a petri dish, a clean petri dish, open it in the air, maybe for like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes. Let's say after 5 minutes, cover the petri dish. Don't open it, leave it like that. You will see that microorganisms should start growing there. Where did those microorganisms come from? They came from the air. The air you expose the petri dish to, it came from it. So as we are breathing in and out, you're coughing, you are sneezing, somebody is coughing near you, you are sneezing, you are using your hand to pick your nose, putting your hand inside your mouth, your hand that you did not wash, you are putting it inside your mouth to eat puff puff, eat biscuit and everything. You are transferring microorganisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes, obviously. You are transferring it into your mouth. So she was now explaining to me that the tonsils is our first line of defense when it comes to our body, our mouth. That's why if they remove that tonsils now, what's going to happen to her? That she might start getting opportunist infection. So I told her that whatever decision you want to make, I think you should follow what the doctor is saying, because you can't keep treating tonsillitis every 3 months like as if you are treating something else. So I just told her that I think you should listen to what the doctor has said. So now, when we are talking about lymph nodes that are present in the throat, we have lymphatic organs too. Like the tonsil is an example of a lymphatic organ that is present in our throat, and it also helps us with it helps our body with immunity. It helps to protect our body. What are the functions of the lymphatic system and the lymph? They aid in the immune system in destroying pathogens. What are pathogens? Organisms that find their way into the into the system. They work in association with the circulatory system to deliver nutrients, hormones, and oxygen to the body. They carry nitrogenous waste and CO2 from tissues to the blood. Now, we've talked about transport system in higher animals like human beings. Now, let's talk about transport system in higher plants. When we are talking about the transport system in higher plants, what are we talking about? We are talking about things like, okay, give me a moment. I think I have something on this. Give me a moment. Yeah, I have something on it. So let me share my screen at this point. I have something on translocation, plants. Give me a moment. Okay, yeah. Okay. 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 If you can see my screen, give me a thumbs up. You can see my screen, give me a thumbs up. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Abawumi. Gospel, can you see my screen? Gospel, can you see my screen? Okay, Senior Man, thank you. All right, all right. Thank you, Gospel. Thank you, Gospel, for letting me know you can see my screen. All right, so I'm going to go on. Transport system in higher plants. So what carries food around the plants? What carries water and minerals around the plants? The phloem and the xylem are responsible for doing that respectively. So let me go on to explain. At the beginning of the class, I defined them transportation, transport system, and etc. Now, in plants also, materials are transported. For example, when you have a plant, maybe during dry season, you take your watering can or your bowl, you water it, you pour water. Where are you pouring water? As water is touching the leaf, it's touching the stalk, it's touching the soil, and the soil is absorbing the water, abi? Now, how is that water getting to the plants? How is that water getting to the roots, getting to the leaf? Let me give you an example. I'm a lover of flowers. I have some flowers in my house, which I placed in a bucket because it's. I'm not the owner of the house, so I cannot dig. I cannot start digging the floor and planting my favorite flowers there. So I had them in a bucket, such that if I need to move around, I can easily just carry the plants around. So there is this plant that I have called petunia. This plant, now the type of plant that I prefer to keep, because of my level of availability, I prefer to keep plants that don't need a lot of water. For example, I keep the snake plants, and I also keep a plant called crown of thorns. These ones don't need too much attention. You can water them once in a week, and if I a whole week, you might you if I don't water them, nothing will happen to them. They will not die. Now, when I take a bowl and I'm pouring water into the plant, how is that water getting to the leaf? That petunia now, for example, if I don't water the petunia flower in time, what happens? The leaf that is standing straight like this, you just bring their mouth down. And if I water, if I know that, the leaves of this thing is dropping, it will soon die if I don't water it. I quickly go inside, I take water and water it. By the time I will come back, the next like 30 minutes to 1 hour, that leaf that has dropped will stand up again. Now, how did the leaf know that there is water in the soil now? There is a mechanism behind that. There is a way, and we are going to explain. I'm going to explain that now. Materials in higher plants are transported by these processes: translocation, absorption of water and minerals by the roots of the plant, transport of water in xylem, and transpiration. Now let's talk about translocation. If you are following, drop an emoji. Okay, thank you, Christine. Now, translocation is the process of transporting organic solute like glucose. Thank you, Obamumi, from one place to another in plants. Now, transformation is carried out by specialized system in the plant. This system in the plant are called the supporting tissues or the conducting tissues, and they are the xylem and the phloem. And the xylem and the phloem are collectively referred to as the vascular bundles in the plant, or the vascular tissues, or the supporting tissues in the plant. Xylem, for example, is responsible for transporting water and mineral salts absorbed from the soil by the root hairs to the leaf. Can you see that? So when you pour water into the soil, the root hair absorbs the water through a process called translocation. And the leaf that was drooping gets up and stands straight and tall. While the phloem is responsible for transporting organic food prepared by the leaves to storage organs like the bulbs, the fruits, etc. Now, the vascular bundles are arranged in a specific pattern, and they are arranged from the xylem, the phloem. Please, that person, please mute your mic. Mute your mic, thank you, and the cambium. Now, absorption of water and mineral salt by the root hair. In plants, obviously this is important. If the plants cannot absorb water and minerals from soil with their root hairs, that plant is not going to be able to survive. Now, plants absorb water and dissolve minerals from the soil with the aid of the root hairs. And so it passes by through osmosis across the root into the xylem. Now, the root hairs are selectively permeable, and they only allow the passage of certain substances, certain materials. Now, talking about the transport of water in xylem tissue. Absorb water, you know, we say xylem is responsible for transporting water in plants, while phloem is responsible for transporting food materials. Now, the xylem, absorbed water in the xylem tissue is transported through some processes, through the root pressure, capillary force, cohesion and adhesion, transpiration, pull. And we have the transpiration, which is defined as loss of water in plants by the process called evaporation through the stomata and or the lengthy cells. That is what transpiration is. Then what are the importance of transport system in human beings, in animals, in human beings, in animals and plants? What are the importance of transport system? One, water absorbed through the root are transported to the leaves via the xylem to perform photosynthesis. This is for plants. I'm talking about the importance of transport system for plants. And for animals, we have is responsible for removal of waste products. It's responsible for facilitating exchange of materials between cells. It's responsible for supply of materials to cells and tissues. Now, we have materials for transport in plants and materials for transport in animals. What are the materials that need transportation? For example, if I ask you now that in Nigeria, what are materials that need transportation? We will say food, for example. We say food. For example, in the north now, there are some food products that is being produced in the north. All of us cannot go to the north to go and buy tomatoes. We cannot go there to go and buy carrot or cabbage. So how are those products, farm produce from the north, getting to other parts of the state in Nigeria? It is through transportation. Fuel also is being transported. Imagine if all the filling stations don't have fuel because the tankers that come to supply them have not come. All of us cannot go to the refinery to go and be buying fuel. Abi, we all cannot go to the refinery to buy our own fuel, obviously. So it is those big vehicles, those tanker trailers, they go there, they get the fuel, they supply it to the filling stations, and we go to any filling station that is close to us and we go and make purchase. So what are materials for transport in plants? In plants, water absorbed through the root hairs are transported to the leaves via the xylem to perform the process of photosynthesis. And without performing photosynthesis, the plant is going to die. If you have a plant in your house now that needs water, you know there are some plants, they need a lot of attention, care, watering them. Don't overwater them, they will die. Don't underwater them, they will die. That is why I said earlier that I prefer to keep plants that needs minimal supervision. I can go a whole week and not even remember to wet them and they will not die. But that petunia flower that I talk about that I have, if I stay 1 week without watering it, it will die. The leaf will become dry. So because I'm not giving this water, now there is no water to perform photosynthesis. So what's going to happen to that petunia plant? Is going to die. Because photosynthesis takes place with carbon dioxide in the environment, water, and minerals in the soil. So there's minerals, there's CO2, but me, I did not give it water. So what will happen to it? It will not be able to perform the process of photosynthesis, and the plant is going to start changing color. From green, it changes to yellow, changes color. Eventually, it becomes dry and it dies off. Eventually, the plant will die. Because a plant that cannot perform photosynthesis is the way through which plants make their own food. So if they cannot make their food, how will they survive? It's just like an human being now that has not eaten, no food, no water for 1 whole month. What will happen to that human being? The human being will not be okay. That is if the person does not end up dead. A whole month, a whole month if you go without food and water, 30 days, it's still okay. But imagine a human being going 3 months. That's 90 days. No food, no water. That human being will die, no cap. Are you following? If you are following, drop a thumbs up. Thank you, Christine. That human being will die for 3 months. No food, no water. 90 days. That human being will die. So also in plants. If you don't water your plants and give it the food you're supposed to give it, it will die. Even animals. If you take lion, as mighty as a lion is, lock up a lion in a cage for 3 months. Don't give that lion food. Don't give it water. That lion will die, you. Because these things are essential for life. Water is essential for life. Food is essential for life. Also, me to synthesize. Now, after synthesizing the food, through the phloem. I said the xylem is responsible for transporting water, and the phloem is responsible for transporting food. So after the food has been synthesized, it is transported through the phloem to different plant parts or to perform life processes. Carbon dioxide produced by respiration and oxygen produced by photosynthesis are transported to the leaves for excretion, where they give it off as gas to the environment. I'm talking about the oxygen here. Transport in animals. Nutrients are transported in the blood to each cell of the body, where they are used for growth, for reproduction, for energy, and for respiration. Oxygen is transported from the lungs to the body cells for respiration. Excretory waste and excess water are transported from the organs of production to the organ of excretion. Who can tell me which organ is responsible for excretion of water? Excretion of water. Which organ is responsible for excretion of water? Anyone wants to give it a trial? If you are in a place where you cannot speak, you can drop the message in the chat box. I'm going to see it and respond. What organs in the human body, I'm talking about human body, what organ in the human body is responsible for excretion of water? Does anybody wants to give it a trial?
The kidneys, ma.
Yes, the kidneys. Thank you. We also have the skin. When you sweat, what is coming out? Is it blood? It's water. It's water. It's water that is coming out through the skin. And through the kidney, we have the urine. Can you see that? So those are the two organs responsible for excretion of water. Hormones from endocrine glands are transported to their target organs also. Then we have the media for transportation. What is the media for transportation that we have in both human beings, plants, and animals? We have five media of transportation. We have cytoplasm, we have cell sap and latex, we have blood, we have lymph, and we have the tissue fluid. When we talk about the cytoplasm, this one is common in unicellular organisms. Organisms that are made of, what is a unicellular organism? Before don't let me tell you that. Let me ask you first. What is a unicellular organism? Who can give it a trial? Unicellular organism. What does it mean? When they say an organism is a unicellular organism, what does it mean? Anyone wants to give it a trial?
Made up of only one cell.
Yes. Thank you, Christine. A unicellular organism is made up of only one cell. It means a unicellular organism, it doesn't have heart for pumping blood, kidney for excretion of waste. It doesn't have a digestive system. It's made up of just one cell. So it is that one cell that is performing the process of reproduction, excretion, feeding, every single thing. So in unicellular organism, metabolic materials move within the cell through the cytoplasm. Then we have the cell sap and latex. This one is in plants. In plant cells, materials are distributed through the cell sap, and water and dissolved minerals are also distributed through the cell sap. Then we have blood. Blood is pumped to body tissues by the heart through blood vessels to transport oxygen, carbon dioxide, and even nutrients. It takes oxygen to the body, removes CO2, and it transports nutrients. For example, when we talked about the digestive system in the last class, I made mention that when you chew your food and you swallow it and it goes to your stomach, stomach juice, stomach acid acts on it, it passes to the small intestine where absorption of nutrients will occur. And when absorption of nutrients will occur, it diffuses to the blood, and your blood takes all these nutrients around the body. Where your body needs protein, protein goes. Where it needs vitamins, vitamin goes. So the blood is responsible for transporting not just respiratory gases, oxygen and CO2. It is also responsible for transportation of other materials, nutrients. Then we have lymph, which circulates through the lymphatic system to pick up unwanted materials, waste product also. Then we have tissue fluids. It supplies the cells with nutrients such as oxygen and food materials. Now, what's the mechanism? I mentioned the media of transportation in unicellular organism. I said it is through their cytoplasm. Now, we have mechanism of transport in unicellular organism. The mechanism of transport in unicellular organism is through a type of movement that is called cyclosis. Cyclosis. And what is cyclosis? Cyclosis is a distribution of food materials and oxygen in the cytoplasm. It also brings CO2, that is carbon dioxide, and nitrogenous waste near the cell membrane so that they can diffuse out from the cell. Now, in the unicellular organism, most of its life processes is performed through the process of diffusion. Oxygen diffuses, CO2 diffuses, etc. Now, the mechanism of transportation in multicellular. Now, when I asked the question that what is a unicellular organism, Christine answered. She said a unicellular organism is made up of one cell. So now, when we say multicellular, what does it mean? You mean it is made up of multiple cells, many. It's made up of many cells. So a simple unicellular organism, for example, designated system. Do you get me? They have designated system. They have the system that's responsible, like human beings, for example. We are an example of a multicellular organism. We have respiratory system, we have circulatory system, we have digestive system, excretory system, all performing their own functions, all like unicellular organism. So as a multicellular organism, we human beings, we have various organs, various systems that are working to perform specific life process. Now let's talk about the circulatory system in human beings. Now, we cannot talk about transport system without talking about circulatory system. We've talked about transport system in plants, translocation, how food and water is being transported. Now let's talk about the circulatory system in human beings. The circulatory system in human beings is made of, it comprises of blood vessels, which are arteries, veins, capillaries. The circulatory system in human beings is made up of blood vessels, the heart, and the circulatory fluid. What are the circulatory fluids? The blood and the lymph, red blood cells, white blood cells, etc. Now, these blood vessels I mentioned, we have arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. The blood vessels are elastic muscular tube, and they carry blood to every part of the body. And we have the arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. The arteries are responsible for carrying blood away from the heart. The arteries carries blood away from the heart. And what kind of blood does it carry? The artery carries oxygenated blood. The artery carries oxygenated blood that has been oxygenated. It carries it away from the heart and supplies the body. And the arteries have a thick wall. They have a thick wall, and they are more elastic. While the veins are responsible for carrying blood towards the heart. And what kind of blood do the veins carry? They carry deoxygenated blood that is upward in oxygen. Deoxygenated, that is, it does not contain oxygen. So what is the color of these bloods that the vein carry? They are dark red, unlike the one that the artery carries that is bright red in color. And the walls of the vein are thin, and they are less elastic, and blood flowing through it is flowing under low pressure, not under high pressure. Then we have capillaries. They are very thin vessels that link arteries with veins. Then we have the heart. The heart is a muscular organ that is about the size of an adult fist. If you take a look at my fist, okay, I'm an adult, but my fist is quite, small. So if I make a fist, this is a fist. So unlike if you see somebody that is probably more built than I am, if the person makes a fist, their own fist will be way bigger than mine. So now the heart is a muscular organ that is about the size of an adult clenched fist, when you clench your fist. And where is the heart found? It is found on the left side of the body, and it is found within the thoracic cage. So the ribs protect it. The heart consists of muscles called cardiac muscles. The walls of the heart has 3 layers. It has 3 layers. It has the epicardium, the myocardium, and the pericardium. The epicardium forms the outer surface. And you're welcome, Gloria. You're welcome. The myocardium is the muscular
The
layer that forms the middle layer. You can mute your mic, Gloria. You're welcome. Now, the heart has 4 chambers. Thank you. The heart has 4 chambers. The right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, and the left ventricle. Those are the 4 chambers of the heart. Now, talking about blood flow through the heart. How is blood flowing through the heart, for example? Now, we mentioned oxygenated blood, deoxygenated blood. We said artery carries oxygenated blood from the heart to all parts of the body. Veins carry deoxygenated blood from the body towards the heart. Now, all of this blood, how do they flow? The one that does not have oxygen, it goes. The one that has oxygen, it comes. Now, blood from two vessels called the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. They collect deoxygenated blood around the body. After collecting it, they pass the blood to the right atrium. The right atrium now passes that blood. It pumps it to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, the blood goes to the lungs through the pulmonary artery. Then from the lungs now oxygenate that blood. After the lungs oxygenate with the lungs now pass the blood through the pulmonary vessel, the pulmonary vein to the left atrium. Then from the left atrium, the blood moves to the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, the blood is pumped to all parts of the body through the aorta. Now, there are valves in between. There is a valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle. That valve is called the tricuspid valve. And what are the functions of this valve? They help to prevent backflow of blood, such that the blood is flowing only in one direction, unidirectional. It's not flowing backwards. Now, if it's flowing backward, it means it's going to the front. Some are flowing to the back. If peradventure a situation occurs where the blood flows to the back, is flowing backward instead of going unidirectionally, it will lead to a condition called regurgitation. It will lead to a condition called regurgitation, which is a medical condition, and that person will need to see a cardiologist. Now, between the right ventricle and the left atrium, we have the pulmonary valves. Between the left atrium and the left ventricle, we have the bicuspid valve. And between the left ventricle and the aorta, we have the aortic valve. So I think that is all that we have. Yes, that's all that we have for today. That's all that we have for today. That's all that we have for today. Do you have any questions? Questions from today's class? Obawumi, do you have questions from the previous class on the digestive system?
No.
Okay, thank you for that.
No.
Yes, thank you,
I
thank
don't
you.
have.
All right, thank you. So from today's class, do you have questions? Christine, do you have questions from today's class? Obawumi, do you have questions from today's class?
What's the topic
No,
of
ma.
today?
Obawumi, what did you say? Can you drop a message in the chat
No.
box?
Okay.
Drop a message in the chat box. While you do that, let me take the attendance. So I have just Christine and Obawumi in class. So let me look for your name on the attendance. Christine and Obawumi. Just give me a moment. Obawumi, drop your message in, drop your question in the chat box. I'm going to check it once I'm on that slide. Obawumi. Christine, is Christine the name I will find on your on your attendance?
Yes, ma.
Okay. Okay. Give me a moment. I'm with you. Give me a moment. Okay, Obawumi, I got your name on the attendance. I got your name on the attendance, Obawumi. So let's see Christine. Okay, Gospel was present, but I don't know what happened. Gospel, are you back to the call now? Okay. Christine, I don't think I've seen your name. I'm seeing your name here. Christine, I didn't find your name on the attendance. Oh. Christine, are you there?
Yes, ma.
I didn't find your name on the attendance. I'm looking through it a second time. That's why I asked if the name I'll see on the attendance is Christine. Oh, I missed it. I found it. I found it. I found your name, Christine. Okay. Okay, I got it. I got everyone's name. So okay. Okay, so I got that. Okay, so let me attend to about this question. Oh, the topic for today is transport system. About me, did you hear me? Transport system. About me, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
The topic for today is transport system. The class is recorded. So latest by tomorrow, you will have the recording from today's class, from the beginning up to where you joined, okay? So what happened? Why were you late for today's class? About me? That's quite unusual. You're one of the students that turns up early enough for the classes. What happened? Did you lose track of time today?
Yes.
What did you say? All right. So do you have any questions? Christine, do you have questions from what we did today? About me, do you have questions from what we did today? Questions?
No, ma.
What is the difference
All right, thank
between
you. So,
pulmonary artery
okay.
and pulmonary?
The difference between pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein? About me, is that your question?
Yes.
Okay, pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, while pulmonary veins carries oxygenated blood. Pulmonary arteries carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs for it to get oxygenated, while pulmonary vein carries those oxygenated blood, it carries it from the lungs and supplies the left atrium. Do you get it? About me, did I answer your question?
What do you say? Repeat it again.
I said pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, blood that is poor in oxygen, while pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood, a blood that is rich in oxygen. Did you get it now, about me? About me, did you get it now?
Yes, I got it now. Yes, I
Okay,
got
all
it
right then.
now.
All right, thank you. So this is where we all right, thank you. So this is where we'll bring the class to a close. I'm going to see you next week, Thursday, by 7 p.m. Let anyone to come early. So, and if in the course of listening to the recorded session, if you have any question, you can note it down. In our next class, when we come next week, you can you'll be able to ask your questions when I'm doing a review on what we did today next week. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna see you next week, Thursday. Bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you, ma.
You're welcome.